I am the legitimate second daughter of the Marquis of Junbei. My father, the Marquis of Junbei, commands the Northwestern military forces, with an ironclad hereditary title secured by imperial decree. My mother, Princess Jenning, is the most beautiful woman in the capital, excelling in all refined arts from music to calligraphy. My elder sister was personally appointed by His Majesty as the palace historian, her literary brilliance unmatched throughout the capital. My elder brother achieved fame at a young age, wielding the Yuan family spear with peerless mastery. Of course, ancestral graves can't keep emitting auspicious smoke forever. As for me, I'm famously known as the good-for-nothing of the capital, but that doesn't stop me from chasing cats and teasing dogs, idling away my days waiting for death. Unexpectedly, the emperor decreed that the legitimate daughter of Marquis whose household should enter the palace to be enshrined as the crown prince's principal consort. Truthfully, I didn't mind after all. It wasn't like I stood to lose anything. It's just that the entire family's elders went through such pains merely to prop up this useless fool like me, until Liu Yi pointed her sword at me and angrily demanded, "You live like a walking corpse, how come you never have thoughts of your own?" I was utterly shocked and hastened to defend myself. "I do, sister, I do," listening to mother's nagging, kissing father's feet, praising sister's radiance, marveling at brother's glory. Their thoughts are my thoughts. Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful stories every day. Now, the story begins. I am a noble lady from the capital, the legitimate daughter of the mighty Marquis of Junbei. Sounds thrilling. My father is the Marquis of Junbei, who has repeatedly achieved great military feats, with his hereditary title passed down through generations. My mother is Princess Jenning, the most beautiful woman in the capital, skilled in all four arts of zither, chess, calligraphy, and painting. Sounds even more impressive. My sister is the court historian personally appointed by His Majesty, the most talented woman in the capital, capable of writing magnificent literary works. I also have an elder brother who achieved fame at a young age, charming and dashing, wielding the Yuan family spear with such mastery that everyone says he inherited the true teachings of Marquis Junbei, upholding our Yuan family's proud tradition. It seems I should have been quite extraordinary too, either inheriting my mother's breathtaking beauty or my father's peerless martial prowess. But the heavens can't keep spoon-feeding blessings to one family forever. Everyone says I'm the capital's #1 good-for-nothing. What nonsense. What kind of nonsense is this? I'm just ordinary looking with no special talents, at best mediocre. If you lined up all the mediocre young ladies and gentlemen in the capital, they'd circle the city 3 times. It's just that everyone else in my family is so outstanding that it makes me seem completely worthless. Since childhood, Nurse Yu has held me comfortingly and said, "They're all just jealous of the Yuan family's glory, unable to find any faults. They've singled out you alone to torment. Nurse Yu, perhaps you'd better not comfort me." Nurse Yang, who also cared for me since childhood, suddenly remarked coldly, "The Yuan family was as solid as an iron barrel until Miss Barrel came along." Nurse Yang, you shut up too. Just as I was comfortably resigning myself to being a lazy good-for-nothing, a royal decree summoned me to the palace. The emperor was selecting a consort for the crown prince. Good news, His Majesty deemed my family background outstanding enough to match the crown prince. Bad news, the emperor believes Liu Yi's talent and beauty make her equally suitable to marry the crown prince. Something's off. No. Something's very off. This imperial decree carries ambiguity, so I'm just coasting on my family's status. While Liu Yi earns her place through genuine ability, my father and mother were evasive, hesitating to speak. "What do you mean? What exactly do you mean?" Liu Yi, the #1 enemy of all noble ladies in the capital, was also the dream lover of every young master from prominent families. She possessed unparalleled radiance, born with celestial beauty as if descended from the moon palace. A single glance from her could enchant 100 hearts. Her literary talent is extraordinary, possessing the gift of poetic brilliance, her writings flowing as smoothly as clouds and water. My brother spoke of her. Lost in reverie, last year, at the grand flower viewing banquet hosted by the Duke of Rong's mansion, Liu Yi performed the rainbow and feather garment dance. Dressed in a crimson gown, She moved with the grace of a startled swan and the elegance of a wandering dragon. My sister mentioned her, eyes gleaming. At this year's longevity banquet, the ode to eternal life she composed for His Majesty was resplendent in diction and majestic in spirit. I turned and walked away without another word. What a way to boost others' morale while dampening our own. Nanny, you quickly stopped me. Don't be angry, young miss. The Liu family is merely a fifth-rank civil official with no influence whatsoever. How could they compare to you? She's absolutely right. That Liu Yi comes from an extremely ordinary background. Her father holds nothing but a sinecure position. Her mother is just a common housewife. And I heard her brother failed the imperial examinations 3 times in a row. I turned to look at my heroic father, my beautiful mother, my brilliant eldest sister, and my heaven-defying second brother. Still, I surpassed them all, Nanny Yang said coldly once more. Some remain unstained by mud, while others are tainted by proximity to vermilion. Nanny Yang, you should just retire and return to your hometown. The emperor decreed that Liu Yi and I should enter the palace together to accompany the empress. Everyone knew perfectly well that accompanying was just a pretense. Selection was the real purpose. Our every word and action would be measured, with one ultimately becoming the principal consort and the other the secondary consort. What era is this? Still playing these games of feminine rivalry? This melancholy lingered with me all day, ruining my appetite until evening when hunger blurred my vision. Then I remembered the braised pork knuckle still waiting in the kitchen, not bad at all. Yet the more I ate, the more flavorless it became. Ever since I could remember, I'd known my family was no ordinary household. My sister recognized 1,000 characters at age 3, recited hundreds of poems by 5, and at 18 disguised herself as a man to take the imperial exams, achieving the rank of Tanhua, third-place scholar, dressed as an elegant young master that day. She fanned herself with a feathered fan when the results were announced, putting on quite the show and stealing everyone's attention. Only to be kidnapped on the spot by the capital's richest man, who insisted she become his son-in-law. It was I who ran home to raise the alarm, and only when our father came swinging his broadsword did we manage to get her back. My brother was born with extraordinary strength at just 5 years old. He picked up a spear and flawlessly performed the Yuan family spear technique, leaving our father utterly stunned. At 16, he secretly followed our father's Genuine army to the battlefield, where he launched a night raid on the enemy camp and took their commander's head. Later, while receiving imperial rewards, he got drunk at the welcoming banquet and flirted with Princess Rushu, earning himself a near-fatal beating from our father. It was I who ran to beg the princess for mercy. Unable to bear seeing the court lose a talented general, she personally came to our Marquis estate to plead for my brother's life. I witnessed all their glories. No one shares my mediocrity, in all my years. The only praise I've heard comes from Nanny Yu's daily murmurs in my ear. How remarkable our young lady is. She ate an extra bowl of rice today. The pork knuckle in my hand was losing its flavor more and more. I couldn't help but sigh deeply to the heavens, wishing for the storm to come even more fiercely. On the day I was sent to the palace, the whole family rose early. My mother bustled about, packing me a cartload of various foods and clothes. My father took out the spear he'd polished all night and insisted on stuffing it into the carriage, ignoring my mother's protests. My brother solemnly warned me not to go to crowded places. Where there are crowds, there's bound to be trouble. Nanny Yu hugged me tightly, crying buckets of tears. Before Nanny Yang could speak, I quickly covered her mouth. I watched my sister's silent, expressionless face, holding back tears. I muttered resentfully, "Indeed, true feelings are only revealed at parting." My sister rolled her eyes at me. "What nonsense are you talking? I'm serving in the palace. I can see you every day." "Oh, sorry, I forgot. After all, the atmosphere was just right." On the way to the palace, I sat in the carriage exchanging glances with my maid, Duobao. Duobao had been my elder sister's personal maid since childhood. Since my sister served in the palace and couldn't bring her personal maid along, Duobao had been bored stiff staying idle at home. Now that I was entering the palace, my sister assigned Duobao to attend to me. I looked at my personal maid Xiaodao and could only tell her to wait obediently at home for my return. Xiaotao's eyes brimmed with grievance, her expression clearly conveying 5 words: useless mistress. There was no helping it, I was trash. And so was my maid. Duobao was different, having followed my elder sister since childhood to slay monsters and level up. She'd already become a maid proficient in 18 martial arts. Duobao looked at me with eyes full of determination. Second miss. Eldest miss said that when we enter the palace this time, we must strictly adhere to 8 words of wisdom. I shuddered. Could it be that my sister had left me some brilliant secret strategy? I pricked up my ears and heightened my alertness. Hide your clumsiness and guard your foolishness, observe more and speak less. Walking through the imperial city with its vermilion walls and golden tiles, I pondered my sister's words. Taken literally, these 8 characters of wisdom seemed to suggest I should play dumb while secretly plotting. But truth be told, I didn't need to pretend to be a fool. Could my sister have some deeper meaning behind this? Just as I was wondering if there might be some hidden message, in my distraction, I bumped into a solid chest. Looking up, I saw an old granny whose eyes were crinkled into smiling slits. You must be second Miss Yuan. I'm Matron Jiang from Her Majesty's side, specially waiting here to escort second Miss Yuan and Miss Liu into the palace. Just missing a vinegar matron now. What was that? Second Miss Yuan, it's nothing. Just too much vinegar in this morning's home-cooked meal. I chuckled awkwardly to cover my embarrassment. At that very moment, a blue canopied carriage came slowly into view. The elmwood frame bore slightly faded indigo curtains, with bronze bells tinkling at each corner. I stared at the sandalwood-carved carriage beside me, its golden-threaded embroidered curtains shimmering brilliantly. Even the horses pulling it had ruby-studded tassels dangling from their foreheads. On the other side stood a seemingly plain yet undeniably refined carriage, instantly breaking into a sweat. I thought, didn't I say we should keep a low profile? The carriage came to a gradual halt. Its curtain lifted to reveal a pair of delicate, jade-white hands slowly extending outward, her face tilted slightly downward, revealing only a graceful curve of snow-white neck. The woman wore a plain moonlit skirt embroidered with silver thread patterns, her hair adorned with nothing but a single white jade bell hairpin. The surrounding clamor seemed to instantly fall silent. With such an entrance, could she be the female lead? Liu Yi greeted us with a perfectly measured apologetic smile. Gliding forward gracefully, "Yi is late, I beg Madam and second Miss Yuan's forgiveness." Her bright eyes and delicate brows seemed bathed in autumn waters, her demure smile radiating charm without showing teeth. I promptly closed my own conspicuous buck teeth. Aunt Jiang led the 2 of us to meet the Empress. Along the way, I kept thinking how wonderful it would be to have a proper conversation with Liu Yi. Perhaps we'd find ourselves so congenial that we'd become lifelong confidants. Then we wouldn't need to fight over that wretched crown prince business at all. But my sister said, talk less. I don't have many virtues, but I'm obedient. Duobao truly lives up to being my sister's right-hand assistant, discerning my inner thoughts. She took the initiative to strike up a conversation with Liu Yi's personal maid. My name is Duobao, what's yours? Miss Fueling. Even her maid's name sounds so elegant. I silently scoffed to myself. Miss Fueling, from now on in the palace. We can support each other and bring some convenience to our own young ladies. Duobao remained smiling cheerfully. Fueling didn't respond, only letting out a faint hum after a long pause, as if forcing it out through her nostrils. Got it, a maid's attitude reflects her mistress's attitude. This Liu Yi is deliberately making things difficult for me. What a load of nonsense. Upon arriving at the Empress's palace, I first saw my elder sister standing beside Her Majesty. Her face solemn as if she didn't recognize me. Her Majesty the Empress was dressed in crimson palace robes, with golden threaded phoenixes embroidered along her sleeves that seemed ready to take flight, her demeanor utterly majestic. After paying her respects, Liu Yi immediately launched into a stream of flattery. Your Majesty's noble bearing is heaven sent. Truly putting even the sun and moon to shame. Indeed, indeed, I often hear my mother speak of how your Majesty governs the inner palace with perfect balance of kindness and discipline. Your virtuous reputation spreads far and wide. Exactly, exactly. Only after seeing Her Majesty today did I understand what true imperial grace looks like. That's precisely the truth. Liu Yi couldn't maintain her composure anymore and shot me a glare as she turned her head. Can't you think of your own words? the queen smiled, her laughter exuding grace and nobility. She turned to my sister and said, "What an interesting child indeed." My sister bowed her head in agreement, remaining silent as before. The empress looked at Liu Yi again and said, "You've long been renowned for your talent, and indeed it's well deserved. However, the Empress Dowager dislikes plain attire. Dressing more festively in the palace better reflects the youthful radiance and charm of your age." Liu Yi's face turned green. "Haha, serves you right for dressing like you're attending a funeral." Fortunately, my mother, the foremost authority on aesthetics in the capital, had prepared outfits for me suitable for various occasions before I entered the palace. Afraid I might forget, she had Duobao list them all meticulously. Today I'm wearing my crowd-pleasing, elder-pleasing outfit, a brocade skirt with auspicious cloud patterns, paired with a golden filigree necklace, and ruby crabapple hairpins adorning my locks, both dignified and lively. The Empress spoke again. "In a few days will be the Empress Dowager's birthday celebration. Since you two happen to be entering the palace, this is your chance to be seen by Her Majesty. Make sure you seize this opportunity." Liu Yi seemed instantly energized, her earlier gloom completely vanishing. "I shall prepare with utmost care, not to disappoint your Highness's expectations." After leaving the Empress's palace, Duobao wore a look of malicious glee. Liu Yi must have thought she'd meet the Crown Prince today, that's why she dressed in such a pitifully delicate manner. So that was the reason. I'd simply thought she wasn't right in the head, but I certainly wouldn't reveal my intelligence. I just pretended to look worried. "For the Empress Dowager's birthday celebration, I have neither treasures nor talents. I'm afraid I can't even perform a proper dance." "You do, miss, you do." Duobao wore an enigmatic expression that made my heart sink. Liu Yi had someone install plum blossom stakes. She practiced her dance moves on them every day. Her movements were as light as a fairy's, as graceful as a butterfly's. The palace maids passing by would all stop and gaze at it for a long while. I secretly went to take a look too. It truly wasn't bad. In contrast, I spend my days embroidering indoors. The maids attending me, seeing my mediocre needlework, would gossip behind my back. Truly a useless sack, with no talents whatsoever. Exactly, her embroidery looks utterly mediocre, not even as good as mine. Miss Liu is both beautiful and exceptionally talented. She's surely destined to be the Crown Prince's principal consort. If not for her family background, she'd struggle to even become the Crown Prince's concubine. She angrily scolded those maidservants. Afraid I might overthink it, she hurried over to comfort me. "Second young miss, don't listen to such nonsense." I was actually fine, considering even this utterly ordinary embroidery piece. It was all Duobao who embroidered them late at night and had me bring them during the day to put on a show. My embroidery skills aren't just bad, they're downright terrible. When I was little, my mother hired a famous embroiderer from the capital to teach me. She said that while literary talent and looks require innate gifts, embroidery only needs perseverance. With steady effort, even dripping water can pierce stone. And eventually, one could achieve passable results. On my first day practicing threading needles, my eyes ached from the strain. My sister sternly told the embroidery mistress that I was still young and needed to protect my eyes. On my second day practicing needlework, I pricked my own finger. My brother jumped in frustration, saying my delicate skin shouldn't bear scars. On the third day, I clumsily stitched together a little duck. My father said this rat was actually quite lifelike in its embroidery. Being thin-skinned, I immediately threw the embroidery into the lake, ran back to my room, and cried under the covers. My mother scolded my father soundly, then dismissed the embroidery teacher. She came back and hugged me guiltily, saying, "It's mother's fault. I forgot you're someone who doesn't need to learn anything at all." The Empress Dowager's birthday arrived, filling the palace with lively celebrations. Duobao was also busy dressing me according to my mother's fashion catalogue. Today's outfit was specially chosen for an elder's longevity banquet. Just for attending birthday banquets, my mother prepared several different outfits. For a friend's birthday feast, one should dress fresh and pleasant. For a noblewoman's birthday celebration, one should dress dignified and proper. For a princess's birthday banquet, one should dress steady and understated. And for this Empress Dowager's birthday banquet, the dress code is extravagant, and still more extravagant. My mother said that firstly, Since the Empress Dowager is advanced in years, she particularly enjoys seeing young girls dressed auspiciously, hence the bold red is mandatory. Secondly, as I'm now a candidate for Crown Princess, overwhelming my rivals through attire would let everyone see who truly possesses the majestic bearing worthy of ruling beside the Emperor. Thus when I appeared in the Grand Hall wearing a red phoenix tail skirt woven with gold threads, I managed to leave quite a few people momentarily spellbound. Some noble women whispered that I was different from the rumors. Liu Yi still looked down on my efforts to package myself. She wore a sapphire blue palace gown woven with cloud-patterned brocade, its hem embroidered with intricate silver lotus vines. Today's attire was quite unlike her usual delicate, flower-like image. Instead lending her features a more dignified air, perhaps because the Crown Prince was away on business and couldn't attend the birthday banquet in person, she abandoned her delicate white flower attire. After 3 rounds of wine, it was time for the young ladies and gentlemen of noble families to present their talents in celebration of the Empress Dowager's birthday, whether playing a tune on the zither or presenting a painting, mostly decent, nothing particularly outstanding. Something's not right. I recall Miss Chen's mastery of the konghu, its lingering notes resonating through the rafters for 3 days without fading. The young master of the Pei family excelled at playing the transverse flute, his rendition of Falling Plum Blossoms clear and melodious. There's also the granddaughter of a duke, whose calligraphy is said to bear the hallmark of a true master. Why is it that today's performances are either a change of talent or just plain mediocre? Today's banquet is in honor of the Empress Dowager's birthday, but the only protagonists seem to be you and Miss Liu. I doubt anyone else will dare steal the spotlight. Come to think of it, no one would want to offend the future Crown Princess. Liu Yi made her grand finale appearance clad in crimson dance robes embroidered with peach blossoms. Like a spring peach branch come to life, she leaped lightly onto the 3-foot-high plum blossom stakes, swaying gracefully to the music with her skirt fluttering, truly resembling a peach blossom fairy dancing atop the branches in the breeze. Even I was stunned, truly magnificent. The dance ended, leaving the entire hall in an uproar. I've long heard that Miss Liu's dancing is unparalleled in the capital, and seeing it today truly lives up to her reputation. This is the most outstanding dance performance I've ever witnessed in my life. This dance deserves to be called a masterpiece. Amidst the buzzing discussions, Liu Yi, despite her usual modesty and low profile, couldn't help but reveal a triumphant joy. Even the Empress Dowager smiled and said, "To possess such extraordinary skills at such a tender age is truly remarkable. Someone, reward her generously." With even the Empress Dowager praising her, the flood of compliments from the crowd became endless. Liu Yi smiled gracefully, but her gaze turned toward me. "Second Miss Yuan, I've heard the Zhenyuan Marquis's household is full of talented individuals. As the family's treasured pearl, you must surely be exceptional." Someone in the crowd burst out laughing. "Truly a spoiled darling, spoiled rotten. Don't say that. Look at her dignified bearing today. Perhaps she's different from the rumors." What difference could there be? I've heard she spends her days embroidering some ordinary piece in the palace that might be somewhat improper. As the crowd buzzed with discussion, I sighed and stepped forward. This humble subject respectfully wishes Her Majesty the Empress Dowager boundless happiness and longevity. To express my sincerity, I've personally embroidered a 5 blessings surrounding longevity pouch for Her Majesty. With these words, Duo Bao presented the box containing the embroidered pouch. The Empress Dowager opened the box and took out a pouch, while everyone craned their necks to look. Indeed, it was just an ordinary pouch embroidered with longevity patterns. The crowd wore expressions that said as expected, and so it really is, each face revealing a faintly mocking smile. Even the Empress Dowager looked at me with slight bewilderment. Liu Yi thoughtfully said on my behalf, "Second Miss Yuan certainly knows how to whet people's appetites. This embroidered pouch must conceal something extraordinary. Do enlighten us all." At these words, the crowd fixed their gazes even more intently upon me. Ah, how the standards of the world have declined. I sighed inwardly, thinking how these gentle blades cut deepest of all. Miss Liu is absolutely right. Knowing my embroidery skills were mediocre, I took a different approach. After repairing the embroidery piece, I deliberately had someone replicate the pattern and commissioned the Marquis's embroiderers to produce a batch of similar pouches, under Her Majesty the Empress Dowager's name. We initiated a fundraising campaign, with all proceeds donated to the military as supplies. Here is the list of donors. Everyone participated to celebrate Her Majesty's birthday. Wishing her boundless blessings and praying for our great Yong's prosperous destiny, the grand hall fell into momentary silence. Everyone exchanged glances. Their expressions varied. Actually, this idea came from my elder sister. She had her maid Duobao help me mend the embroidery during the day so I could carry it around for show, while secretly sending the embroidery patterns back home to have my mother gather dozens of seamstresses to work through the night. Afterwards, I had my brother carry this pouch with him daily to banquets, telling everyone it was the Empress Dowager's latest favorite style and that she wore it close to her person every day. People clamored to buy it, but he said the Empress Dowager's belongings couldn't possibly be owned by just anyone. Not only did one need status, but their wealth had to be verified too. My brother was one of the capital's most dashing young gentlemen. The young ladies who secretly admired him emptied their private savings without hesitation, while the young noblemen seeking his friendship spent fortunes without batting an eye. This is no mere purse, it's clearly a VIP pass to the halls of power. Now that I've produced the list and rebranded them as benevolent donors voluntarily contributing to the Empress Dowager's birthday celebrations, earning her recognition, they're all delighted beyond measure. They've completely forgotten how my brother tricked them into this scheme. The Empress Dowager took the list, skimmed through it, and said to the assembly with a smile, "You really shouldn't have gone to such expense." The Duchess of Sukuo immediately responded, "Your Majesty speaks too modestly. We ladies were just lamenting our lack of opportunity to celebrate your birthday and pray for great Yong's prosperity. This is but a small token of our devotion." The young lady of the Duke of Su beside her secretly curled her lips in disdain. Rumor had it that she had spent all her private savings to buy that pouch, earning herself a disciplinary beating from the Duchess of Su. Her screams had been heard halfway down the street, under the crowd's scornful gazes. The Duchess wore an expression that seemed to say, "So what? What can you do about it?" Thus, the birthday banquet transformed into a frenzied competition among the guests to curry favor with the Empress Dowager and prove their loyalty. After the banquet concluded, Liu Yi blocked my path with a face full of resentment. "Are you satisfied now?" Confused, I looked at her in bewilderment. "Stop pretending. Carrying around that shabby pouch every day, wasn't it all just an act to lower my guard so you could pull this stunt?" The snarling expression wasn't as attractive as before. "Your audacity truly knows no bounds. With your family scheming for you and parents pulling these underhanded tricks, what actual abilities do you possess yourself?" She wasn't wrong about that. I do indeed have rather thick skin. On one point you're mistaken. How could this possibly be considered underhanded? I think Liu Yi has some screws loose. I need to explain things to her. The Empress Dowager has gained wisdom, allowing ministers to pledge loyalty. The people support Great Yong even more fervently, and the border garrisons serve the nation with renewed dedication. This is the gift the Empress Dowager desires most. Liu Yi stared wide-eyed, sensing an indescribable eeriness about it all. "But you have no talents. The palace has never sought talents." I cut her off. "How could someone usually so sharp be so dense now? Then you're relying entirely on family connections. Is there a problem with that?" This part one truly didn't understand. This empire wasn't won by the emperor's own hands, it was passed down through generations of his ancestors' blood and sacrifice. If even emperors inherit their thrones, surely what I'm doing isn't too excessive. Today marks the most I've spoken since entering the palace. I wonder if Liu Yi truly understands. She stared at me blankly, utterly speechless. I sighed inwardly. No matter how diligently you've studied by your cold window, how could you ever rival the achievements of my forebears? His Royal Highness the Crown Prince arrives. Duobao quickly whispered in my ear that the Crown Prince had rushed back post-haste on horseback to attend the Empress Dowager's birthday celebrations. A grand procession of people approached from ahead. A figure dashed past right before my eyes. Could Liu Yi actually possess Qinggong? Beautiful in appearance, multi-talented, and physically formidable, I couldn't help but marvel. Liu Yi was truly remarkable. While I stood dumbfounded, Liu Yi had already charged straight toward the crown prince's entourage. She addressed the handsome, dignified man at the forefront with shyness and timidity. "Your humble servant Liu Yi pays respects to His Highness the Crown Prince." The handsome man flushed crimson and repeatedly stepped back. I'm merely the Crown Prince's study companion." Liu Yi wore an awkward expression, while Duobao beside me nearly burst out laughing. She then turned to the tall, imposing, and sharp-edged man beside her and spoke in a coquettish tone. "Your Highness the Crown Prince must be exhausted from your long journey." The imposing man coldly pointed his sword at Liu Yi. "I am His Highness's personal guard." At this moment, a man slowly emerged from behind them. His features were ordinary, his demeanor unremarkable. "Could it be, you're the Crown Prince?" Liu Yi asked incredulously, her voice trembling slightly. The ordinary-looking man nodded. Liu Yi froze, and so did I. Duobao stopped laughing too. Liu Yi seemed to have suffered some blow. She covered her face and ran off. I sighed inwardly, poor girl. Her fantasy had just crumbled. Only the Crown Prince and I were left staring at each other. "I've heard your Highness excels in both literary and martial arts," I ventured cautiously. The Crown Prince seemed instantly energized by these words, as if injected with adrenaline. "Exactly. My late father, the Emperor's legitimate heir, was versed in both civil and military arts, appointing only the worthy. My mother, the youngest daughter of the Grand Preceptor, came from noble lineage, excelled in painting, and was a model for women across the realm. My elder sister, Princess Rushu, was benevolent and tolerant, renowned for her charitable deeds and praised by all. My elder brother, the Crown Prince of our dynasty, was tutored by renowned masters from childhood, adept at civil governance to pacify the state and martial prowess to secure the nation. I am the eldest daughter of Marquis Shenyuan, the imperial brother's betrothed, personally appointed by His Majesty as the court historian of learning, whose splendid writings surpass all in the capital. Wait a minute, that seems to be my line. Wait another minute, is this Crown Prince not the same as that Crown Prince? Wait yet another minute. Who exactly is this betrothed imperial sister-in-law he's talking about? I stared at the Crown Prince until he grew visibly uncomfortable. The Crown Prince shrugged and gestured for me to proceed. After some conversation, I finally learned the truth. It turned out that the exceptionally gifted former Crown Prince, whom I'd known since childhood, had passed away from illness several years earlier, due to involving royal secrets and the urgent establishment of the second legitimate son as the new Crown Prince. Some people were unaware of the inside story. Young ones like me were even more clueless. "Then what happened to my sister? You don't even know that?" The Crown Prince was shocked, repeatedly expressing amazement. "Then why do you think she was appointed? If it was solely based on talent, Daeong has no shortage of capable people, and the Empress's palace certainly doesn't lack female officials." He stood up and paced around the pavilion, preening himself with imagined grace. I looked at his thoroughly ordinary appearance, then at the handsome study companion and the valiant guard beside him. Finally, I understood why Liu Yi hated me. The gender-swapped version of me hates it too. Returning to the palace where I reside, Duobao's face was beaming with joy. "Second miss, His Highness the Crown Prince shares such rapport with you. The position of principal consort is undoubtedly yours." Rapport, what you really mean to say is resemblance. The useless noble girl paired with the good-for-nothing Crown Prince, who wrote this trashy plot. Duobao, what exactly happened between my sister and the former Crown Prince? Duobao's expression turned cold, never expecting me to ask this question. "This is royal secret business. How would a lowly servant like me know? Don't try to fool me. My sister and I grew up sharing the same pair of pants. When she sneaked out of the manor at night before, it was you who wore her clothes and slept in her bed." Duobao stared at me, dumbfounded. I smiled triumphantly. Even if I didn't know other things, who could hide family matters from me, under my relentless pressure? Duobao finally revealed the truth of what happened back then. Several years ago, my sister was merely at the tender age of 13, yet she was the most sought-after noble maiden in the capital. Suitors came knocking so frequently that they wore out our doorstep 3 times over. At that time, the former Crown Prince was about the same age as my sister, refined, gentle, and bearing the dignified demeanor inherited from the late emperor. My sister was chosen to enter the palace as Rushu Princess's study companion due to her exceptional literary talent. One is a celestial flower in paradise, the other flawless jade without blemish. The affection between youths grew swiftly, much to the delight of both the palace and the Zhenyuan Marquis's household. Just as the palace was about to issue an edict appointing the crown princess, the crown prince suddenly passed away. I've heard this twice already, tell me something I don't know. Duo Bao wanted to glare at me, but restrained herself due to her status. This servant was just about to say it. Don't you understand the concept of maintaining suspense? Everyone thought the late crown prince died from a sudden illness. After the young mistress returned home, she wept bitterly every day, refusing to eat or drink. Later, this servant once heard the young mistress go to see the master, shouting something about revenge. That's when I realized the late crown prince might have been murdered. The death of the former crown prince concealed another truth, so my sister entered the palace for the sake of the former crown prince, yet I still couldn't comprehend it fully. It seems both my sister and my father knew about the circumstances surrounding the former crown prince's death. The emperor and empress in the palace were also aware of this. What about the crown prince? Was he aware as well? Just as I was pondering endlessly without reaching an answer, urgent news arrived from the previous dynasty. The great Xia was sending envoys to our great Yong to discuss peace. It should have been good news, yet the crown prince was furious, baring his fangs and brandishing his claws. The battlefront is deadlocked, they must have ulterior motives coming at this time. I reclined on the chaise longue, watching him hop around in agitation, ever since his return. I've been observing this crown prince equally pampered and privileged, yet utterly devoid of accomplishments. These past few days, my mood has been inexplicably much brighter. As for this Liu Yi, though she quieted down for several days after last seeing the crown prince, she's probably given herself enough psychological preparation, coming to understand that power and wealth are truly a woman's best nourishment. So these past few days, I've picked myself up and started anew. Your Highness. Heard that Your Highness has been praying for the nation's blessings at Huangjue Temple. She wishes to discuss insights on Buddhist teachings with Your Highness. I don't understand Buddhist teachings, Your Highness. These pastries were crafted following the Jiangnan style. We humbly request your esteemed evaluation. I don't eat sweets, Your Highness. The lotus flowers in the imperial garden are in full bloom. Would Your Highness have time to join me for a boat ride? What do you mean, with your looks, insisting I accompany you? Are you trying to make me appear uglier by comparison so others can laugh at me? I laughed so hard I fell off the chaise lounge. The crown prince looked at me and said with satisfaction, "Still, the second Miss Yuan suits me best. Perfectly fine. Why curse at people? The diplomatic mission from Great Xia will arrive shortly." The emperor ordered preparations for a welcoming banquet, which all princes and nobles must attend. At the banquet, the chief envoy named Hitu was a burly man with deep-set hawk-like eyes, wearing a long sword at his waist, but I noticed he kept stealing glances at Liu Yi. I couldn't help but criticize this envoy for lacking manners. Meanwhile, I quietly urged my mother to cover her face a bit. If he stares at Liu Yi like that, wouldn't mother lose her composure in public? My mother angrily flicked my forehead with her fingers. Liu Yi announced publicly that she had prepared a dance for the envoy. The emperor was greatly pleased and praised Liu Yi for her grace and intelligence. Unlike her usual graceful dances, Liu Yi had prepared a sword dance this time. Wielding a long sword, she leaped onto the stage and began her performance. Her wide sleeves fluttering like flowing clouds, the tip of her sword slicing through the air with a sharp whistle. The crowd erupted in applause and cheers. I watched with great relish, thinking that if Liu Yi were to open a dance school, she might truly become a master of her generation. Just then, he too suddenly stood up and said, "This dance is beautiful, but as a sword dance, it lacks some fierceness. Let me lend her a hand." With that, he too raised his long sword and joined the dance, his blade movements erupting like sudden thunder, intertwining with Liu Yi's supple swordplay. At times their blades clashed, at times their sleeves brushed against each other. The crowd watched enthralled, but the more I saw, the more puzzled I became. Their coordination was too perfect, as if they'd practiced together before. Just as everyone was about to burst into applause, he too suddenly shifted his sword and lunged at the crown prince. The crowd gasped in shock. Guards shouted, "Protect His Highness," as chaos erupted in the grand hall. At this critical moment, when the blade was mere inches from piercing the crown prince, he suddenly drew a sword from beneath the table. With a flash of cold steel, he miraculously parried the fatal strike. The crown prince's eyes swept away their usual languor as he shouted sharply, "I saw this trick when I was a child, but I'm no longer a child." The crown prince and he too became locked in combat. Everyone stood dumbstruck, shocked by the crown prince's sudden attack. The crown prince actually knew martial arts. It was my brother who reacted first. Drawing a saber from a nearby guard and joining the fray, the guards swarmed forward, and despite Hitu's hundredfold courage, he was hopelessly outnumbered. With a flying leap, my brother placed his blade against Hitu's throat and subdued him. Only when they saw Hitu momentarily restrained and unable to move did everyone hurriedly turn their attention to the crown prince. The empress rushed forward and embraced the crown prince, noticing the wounds left from his fight with Hitu, and immediately summoned the imperial physician. After all, she had already lost one son. She couldn't bear any more blows. Liu Yi also seemed to snap out of her daze from the sudden upheaval moments ago, hurriedly moving closer to the crown prince. My voice choked with sobs as I called out, "Your Highness." For today's banquet, imperial physicians had been standing by in case of emergencies, so before anyone could be sent to summon them, they were already stumbling to the crown prince's side. The crown prince's injuries only looked severe, none were life-threatening, they just needed to stop the bleeding. From behind, I watched the wounded crown prince, the physicians applying medicine, the weeping empress, and Liu Yi's face tight with tension. Duobao watched me standing just a few steps away from the crown prince and urgently said, "Second miss, this is the perfect opportunity to get closer to His Highness. We can't let Liu Yi steal it." I remained silent, still staring intently at the group. Just as the imperial physician was about to bandage the crown prince's wound, Liu Yi's wrist twisted behind her back, and a cold glint flashed. "It is time." At the very moment Liu Yi drew her dagger, I pulled out the spear hidden nearby and knocked her dagger away with lightning speed. With a clang, the dagger fell to the ground, leaving everyone stunned. Liu Yi looked as if struck by lightning, her disbelief even greater at the realization that I knew martial arts too. My brother warned me not to go where crowds gather, so I lurked stealthily behind the group. This gun was polished all night by my father before I entered the palace, and I hid it beneath the carriage. Before Liu Yi could react, I struck like a dragon with my spear, instantly subduing her. Her eyes widened in fury. "You people of Daong are all cunning foxes, so she wasn't one of us." Considering how smoothly she cooperated with Hitu and the way Hitu looked at her during the banquet, Liu Yi was most likely a spy sent by Daxia to wait for me to slip up. "You've actually been hiding your true abilities this whole time. It was arranged by my family, I had no choice." I shrugged, indicating that family decrees are hard to defy. Liu Yi seemed insulted and angrily retorted, "You live like a walking corpse, how come you never have thoughts of your own?" I was utterly shocked and hastened to defend myself. "I do, sister, I do," listening to mother's nagging, kissing father's feet, praising sister's radiance, marveling at brother's glory. "Their thoughts are my thoughts." Liu Yi was puzzled. I was greatly disappointed. How could such a beautiful shell fail to grasp the crux of the matter? I whispered at a volume only the two of us could hear. "The Yuan family's glory has reached its peak. It's like adding fuel to the fire. If our entire family shines too brightly, we'll become everyone's target. But if I alone appear incompetent, they'll only direct their spears at me. You come from humble origins and have never lived at the top. It's normal that you wouldn't understand." My attempt at comfort seemed to have struck a nerve with Liu Yi. Her eyes rolled back as she bit into the poison capsule hidden in her mouth, ending her own life. After these events, Great Yong seized the perfect opportunity with favorable timing, geographical advantage, and popular support, launching a decisive attack that crushed Great Xia. The Crown Prince also revealed to me the truth behind the death of the former Crown Prince. It turned out that during Great Xia's previous visit to congratulate the Emperor on his birthday, when they sent their princess and envoys, They had intended to arrange a marriage alliance between their princess and the former crown prince, only to be publicly rejected by him. Later, the former crown prince went missing during a private moment. When he was finally found in the imperial gardens, he lay stabbed to death by a dagger. With the terrified great Shia princess standing beside his corpse, the princess of Dacia, her garments torn and tattered, tearfully accused the late crown prince of attempting to force himself upon her while drunk. She claimed to have resisted vehemently and accidentally killed him in the struggle, offering to atone for her crime by taking her own life. With these words, she swiftly drew the dagger from the late crown prince's chest and plunged it into her own, breathing her last instantly. The stunned crowd found it impossible to believe that the late crown prince would ever misconduct himself while intoxicated. This was aside from the well-known fact that the late crown prince had been enamored with the eldest daughter of Marquis Zhenyuan. Even if the crown prince had wanted the joy of having both wives, why would he need to publicly reject the princess of Dacia and then force himself upon her? But with the corpse laid out before them, the envoys of Dacia clamored for an explanation. The empress fainted on the spot, and the emperor was utterly exhausted. In the end, they had no choice but to appease the Dacia envoys with gifts of gold, silver, and precious ornaments, dispatching troops to escort the delegation safely back to their homeland. This was an open conspiracy. The great Shia exchanged an unfavored princess for Great Yong's legitimate heir. The coroner's examination revealed the great Shia princess's bones differed from ordinary women. She was trained in martial arts. At the time, the great Shia envoy delegation first got my brother drunk at the banquet. My brother went to sober up, followed by the princess of Dacia. Everyone thought she was trying to get close to the late crown prince, so no one was on guard. Some even welcomed it. The crown prince's voice carried profound remorse, but back then, he was just a child, forced to take on the heavy responsibility of succeeding the late crown prince. Dacia surrendered, pledging annual tribute and submission. Everything has finally settled. I urged Duobao to quickly pack our belongings. It was time to leave the palace. Not only did we retrieve everything I originally brought, but we also managed to take a few extra things from the palace. The 2 carriages we arrived in were now packed into 3. The crown prince frowned and said I could stay longer in the palace. Even getting married there wouldn't be a problem. I laughed incredulously. Who said I was going to marry you? My elder sister was deeply devoted to the former crown prince because they grew up together as childhood sweethearts. Unwilling to remarry, my sister entered the palace and became a court official. But I'm different. I harbor no feelings whatsoever for the crown prince. My personal history of growth mirrors the step-by-step ascent of the Zhenyuan marquisate to the pinnacle of power. And now, flowers bloom in dazzling clusters while flames lick at boiling oil, a scene of extravagant prosperity teetering on the brink of excess. Even if he does, can a 15-year-old crown prince remain devoted to me alone? But what about when he's 25 or 35, years later, when the crown prince holds great power? Will he still tolerate the flourishing influence of Zhenyuan Marquis's household? I dare not take that gamble. The crown prince stood on the city wall watching the gradually receding carriage. While I leaned out of the window to bid him farewell, he smiled, and so did I. He had his weighty responsibilities to the nation, while I had my own passionate quests for justice. When the carriage stopped at Marquis Zhenyuan's residence, I saw my family's anxious figures waiting eagerly. My mother clung to me, unwilling to let go. My father brought out several exquisitely crafted mechanical devices. My brother still wore a solemn expression as he warned me not to go to crowded places. Nanny, you didn't even have time to cry, busy directing servants to haul out another cartload of supplies. Aunt Yang's eyes grew uncharacteristically red as she brought out the winter coat she'd made for me. My elder sister sighed deeply this time and said, "You're still the more open-minded one." In her youth, my sister met someone dazzling enough that she'd willingly spend a lifetime imprisoned for him. Thankfully, I never did. I waved at them. Little Peach jumped onto the 4th carriage, and Duobao's eyes also turned red. I tightened the reins, and the horse let out a whinny. My life, Yuan Xiaoman's life, had only just begun, and so the first story ends. What do you all think? Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments. And if you enjoyed it, please give this video a like. Now, here's the second story. My father wanted to buy me a concubine's position to fill, unexpectedly. She gave a bit too much and ended up buying herself the position of Empress Dowager outright. The imperial concubines paid their respects and were rewarded with 10,000 taels of silver. The maid saved His Majesty's life, rewarded with 50,000 taels of silver. With the imperial treasury depleted, the emperor reluctantly came to me. Mother, I waved my hand. 10 million taels. Overjoyed, the emperor exclaimed, Mother, you're my one and only mother. My family's wealth was so vast that my father felt spiritually impoverished, so he spent 100,000 taels to learn that he could buy me a concubine position for 200,000 taels. My father then decided cheap goods weren't good, and directly gave them 1,000,000 taels instead. Thus what he bought back was the position of Empress Dowager. I don't understand, but I'm utterly shocked. The late emperor has been dead for 5 years. The current emperor is 25 years old, and I'm only 18. Yet the imperial decree had been issued, and the royal carriage sent to fetch me was already waiting respectfully at the Liu family's gate, with no other choice. I entered the palace accompanied by 1,000 dowry chests. When my brother carried me on his back to the main gate, I noticed the number of hidden guards stationed there had multiplied several times over today. No doubt my father feared that with so many guests arriving, some ill-intentioned soul might try to chip away 0.9 grams from the Liu family's pure 9,999 gold gate. As my father always says, when you have reason to pay someone silver, there's no difference between 1 tael and 10,000, but when he tried to steal or cheat, not a single copper coin could be taken from the Liu family. I kept it firmly in mind and carried forward its legacy. The commoners at the gate were whispering among themselves, mostly saying the Liu family reeked of filthy lucre. Only a handful remarked that my father had a kind heart, donating 1,000,000 taels to the imperial court to relieve the urgent need for frontier provisions. My father was overjoyed to hear this and immediately handed out golden melon seeds to the commoners who spoke well of the Liu family. Thus, public opinion shifted abruptly, and all the citizens of the capital sincerely celebrated my ascension to the position of Empress Dowager at such a young age. Greatly pleased, I ordered my maids to scatter coins along the road as I entered the palace. The entire city cheered, "Long live the Empress Dowager." I moved into Yongshou Palace. My husband has been dead for 5 years, painlessly became a mother, with 3,000 daughters-in-law, countless grandsons, truly comfortable. I must admit my father's rebellious tactic was indeed brilliant. It spared me much suffering from women and saved me the ordeal of becoming a mother-in-law. It's just that this palace of eternal longevity looks rather old and shabby, lacking a golden bed. Since birth, I've only been accustomed to sleeping on solid gold beds, otherwise I break out in hives. I wonder if I could buy a better palace to live in. As I was contemplating visiting my daughters-in-law tomorrow to purchase a palace, a shrill voice suddenly echoed from the palace gates, "Your Majesty the Empress Dowager, His Majesty the Emperor says it's too late today. You may visit the ancestral temple to pay respects to the late emperor tomorrow." The old man's teeth were quite white, likely no bad breath, and the air freshness in Yongshou Palace was excellent. He deserves a reward. Reward this eunuch with 1,000 taels. Eunuch Jiao stammered, his previously straight posture bending slightly. Didn't His Excellency hear clearly? Then let's reward another 5,000 taels. It's not easy for an elderly man to keep his toothbrush so white. Chief Eunuch Jiao prostrated himself on the ground, shouting from the depths of his heart, "May the Empress Dowager enjoy boundless happiness and prosperity. May Her Majesty live 1,000 years. This humble servant's monthly allowance is only 10 taels, but now there's hope for retirement. Your Majesty need only give the word for any matter hereafter. Your affairs are the most paramount in the palace. Wherever this servant may be, at Your Majesty's command, I shall immediately rush to serve before your carriage and behind your horse." Indeed, he's the Emperor's trusted confidant with exceptional professional skills. I believe it won't be long before he becomes my trusted aide. After Chief Steward Jiao left, Jichuan voiced her concerns. "My lady, these palace officials are likely two-faced characters. Even after receiving your rewards, they might still go out and slander you behind your back. I'm not the least bit worried about this issue. If such a possibility arises, The only reason could be that the offer wasn't generous enough. In my book, this simply doesn't exist. I slept extremely poorly this night, breaking out in rashes all over my body. This was also the most miserable night I've experienced since birth. The Empress Dowager's Palace of Eternal Longevity doesn't even have a golden bed. How laughable it would sound if word got out. I'll have to arrange one for every senior member of the harem tomorrow, 5 meters wide, no less. When paying respects at the ancestral temple, I noticed a large red flower hung on the late emperor's memorial tablet to mark yesterday's grand wedding. I was thinking how tough it must be for this late emperor even after death. He's still being dragged out by his imperial son to work and sell himself. At the very least, he deserves some reward. How about upgrading his memorial tablet to solid gold? Is solid gold even sincere enough? Let's make it imperial jade instead. But wouldn't this make the other ancestors jealous? I've always been fair to all. Then let's replace them all with jade memorial tablets. To show respect from this royal daughter-in-law to our ancestors. Yes, let's do it this way. As I stepped out of the ancestral hall, I staggered slightly, and a maid sweeping the shrine steadied me. Your Majesty, please be careful. This child seems quite good to me, with a kind face. You'll receive a monthly allowance of 500 taels. Come serve at Yongshou Palace. The little maid swayed unsteadily, her voice trembling as she replied. This lowly servant Qiushuang offended Matron Wu and was banished to clean the ancestral hall. I dare not leave without permission. Oh, how much is Matron Wu worth? Jichuan, deliver 2,000 taels to Matron Wu to settle their grievances. You may come directly now. If it's insufficient, have her seek Jichuan. Thank you, Your Majesty the Empress Dowager. My sister was sold to a brothel, and now I can finally redeem her. The little girl kept kowtowing relentlessly, continuing even when her forehead bled, and Jichuan couldn't hold her back no matter how hard she tried. You silly child, if you break yourself, we'll have to spend money to fix you, and it'll come out of your monthly allowance. You hear? She stopped immediately, her tear-streaked face breaking into an ugly grin. Moved by her pitiful state, I rewarded her with another 100 taels to buy a new uniform from the Imperial Household Department. From that day onward, a large number of palace maids not registered in Yongshou Palace appeared, sweeping floors, watering flowers, and pulling weeds. Touched by their professional enthusiasm, I rewarded each of them with 50 taels of silver. Later, a fierce fight broke out between the maids registered in Yongshou Palace and those who weren't. What right do you have to clean Yongshou Palace? Do you have household registration here? Do you have identification? Not a single speck of dust from Yongshou Palace deserves to be swept by you. It's all ours, ours, ours. The weeds of Yongshou Palace are all ours, ours, ours. Non-resident palace maid, look at the floors you've swept, they're not even fit to use as mirrors. How dare you claim they're clean? We can lick these floors spotless, make them shine. Can you? We refuse to accept this. We demand rotation shifts at Yongshou Palace. Rotation shifts. We demand 996 work schedules. No 007 schedules. We demand retirement at 80. The palace maid's professionalism is truly remarkable. It warms my heart to see. Give each of them another 30 taels as reward. I've digressed. After paying respects to my deceased husband, it was time to meet my daughters-in-law. I had a bit of a headache, having slept poorly the night before, so I only received the first 10 concubines. To make amends to the rest, I gave each of them a red envelope containing 1,000 taels of silver. The leading woman was dignified and poised, her expression unreadable. She must have been the empress. The woman standing behind the empress was dressed extravagantly and made up coquettishly. She'd been rolling her eyes at me since the moment she entered, but I paid her no mind. The empress spoke first, yet with some hesitation. Mother Empress, your servant never imagined your Majesty would appear so youthful. She complimented me. Truly worthy of being empress, she deserves a reward. Not bad at all, just 18 this year. The hall was filled with gasps of astonishment. This child has been presumptuous. Since Her Majesty the Empress Dowager is still young, should she encounter any difficulties in the palace, she may send someone to Fengkang Palace to seek my assistance. The Empress's expression was complex, but her words remained proper. Now this is how my daughter-in-law ought to be. The concubines in the back rows were whispering among themselves. I couldn't make out their words, nor did I bother to strain my ears. No doubt they were just boasting about how high their family's mountains of gold and silver stood, but the woman standing behind the empress arched her delicate brows and sneered coldly. So young, yet she already wants to become Her Majesty's mother. Let's see if she's even worthy. She's nothing but a dowager empress in name. What airs is she putting on? Who in Dayu doesn't know she bought her position as Empress Dowager? The stench of merchants' copper coins dares enter the palace. I can understand, after all, I'm younger than her, yet I'm her mother empress. I wouldn't be happy either if it were me, who told my father to have enough money to buy me the title of Empress Dowager. Ah well, I'll comfort her wounded pride later. Jichuan, I find Her Majesty the Queen quite congenial at first sight. Fetch 20,000 taels of silver as a meeting gift. The Queen's expression cracked. Gr Grand Empress Dowager. This may not be in accordance with protocol. Traditionally, imperial harem gifts were always jewelry and precious stones. It was rare to bestow money outright upon first meeting. I could understand her reaction. I'm not here to disrupt the harem's order, I'm here to join them. So naturally I should follow local customs. Is that so? Then exchange it for equivalent jewelry. Why does the Empress look so unconvinced? Did I offer too little? Jichuan truly lives up to being my most trusted aide, fetching 10 chests of jewelry in less than half the time it takes to drink tea. The Empress was astonished once again. As if guided by spirits, she knelt down in salute. Your son thanks Her Majesty the Empress Mother for the reward. It wasn't dissatisfaction with the amount. This child has a simple heart and is easily content. I like that. Yet Consort Zhong couldn't resist another mocking remark. Just some gold and silver trinkets. The Empress has such a gentle disposition. But this concubine, Jichuan, fetch Consort Zhong 5 chests of jewels. Too noisy, silence her with riches. This concubine pays respects to Her Majesty the Empress Dowager. May the Empress Dowager enjoy boundless happiness, with Lady Zhong taking the lead. The other concubines exchanged glances before scrambling to kneel and pay their respects. We concubines greet Her Majesty the Empress Dowager. May your Majesty enjoy boundless happiness and golden peace. The synchronized voices of greeting echoing through the hall warmed my heart, giving me a sense of homecoming. Rewards for all, such filial children. The concubines cried out once more, long live Her Majesty the Empress Dowager, 1,000, 10,000 years. We, your humble servants, would gladly spill our blood and brains in service to your Majesty. Their voices reverberated through the imperial palace. I couldn't stop grinning. My father had worried I wouldn't fare well in the harem and told me to bring more silver for bribes. I think is overthinking it. I'm quite satisfied with all these children. Soon we'll be one harmonious family of over 3,000 members. The children marched grandly back to their respective palaces, carrying hundreds of boxes of rewards. Before leaving, they didn't forget to invite me to visit their palaces, saying I could move into whichever one I fancied. They'd happily take the secondary bedrooms. Such filial piety. Actually, I've taken a fancy to Consort Zhong's palace of gathered elegance. She's got plenty of rooms there, perfect for storing money. But my father had my golden bed delivered to the palace, and I couldn't bring myself to make excuses to have it moved again. After receiving my daughters-in-law, palace maids came that evening to announce my grandchildren would be brought by their mothers to kowtow to me. I was truly quite exhausted, with seniority suddenly elevating her to the status of national mother, no, national grandmother. Why does it feel so awkward? The higher status took a physical toll, so she politely declined. I knew Her Highness was just putting on appearances during the day, merely some wealthy merchant after all. Surely purchasing her position and the daytime rewards have already emptied her family's coffers. Now hearing that the imperial princes and princesses are coming to pay respects, she's so frightened she's hidden under her blankets. I say, she'd be better off admitting her faults early, resigning from this Empress Dowager position, and going home to do business. Staying here just makes people laugh their heads off. When Consort Zhong arrived at Yongshou Palace with her 2 children, I had long since gone to bed, unaware she'd been cursing at the palace gates for so long. Only when I woke did I realize with alarm that I hadn't prepared any greeting gifts for my grandchildren last night. Amitabha Buddha, sinful, sinful. He hastily ordered someone to seal 1,000 taels of silver as red envelopes to be sent to each palace, so when I was having breakfast, a dozen grandchildren came to serve me tea and water. Imperial grandmother, my mother said you're too lonely living alone in Yongshou Palace, so she wants me to stay here to keep you company. These words came from Consort Zhong's fifth prince. Imperial grandmother, I want to learn business from you. My mother says being an official isn't as good as having money. She wants me to buy myself a Queen Mother title in Jin State someday. It was third princess, born of Consort Zhong, who spoke. Imperial grandmother, I'll care for you in your old age. Imperial grandmother, me too. Children raised in the palace are so sensible, they've even planned my retirement for me. I noticed some of these kids are only 5 or 6 years younger than me. Palace children mature early, and now they'll be supporting me in my old age. Perhaps I'll have to see them off someday. My father's money was well spent. Good, you're all my dear grandchildren. Everyone shall be rewarded. Now I've come to recognize most of my relatives. Only the emperor has yet to come pay his respects to me. His mother, could it be because I didn't give him a red envelope? Alas, children still need coaxing. Your Majesty the Empress Dowager. Chief Eunuch Gao requests an audience. Oh, coming to pay respects in the afternoon and again in the evening. The imperial palace is truly competitive. Even the old eunuchs are caught up in this exhausting race. Tomorrow I must think of ways to reward the harem. Serving in the palace isn't as good as serving in the Liu household. Eunuch Gao chattered auspicious greetings non-stop all the way into the hall. Ancestral Empress Dowager, this humble servant has come to pay respects to you. The melody's cheerfulness was like the soft singing of an oriole. I was in high spirits too. This chief steward Gao truly understood emotional value. Eunuch Gao, do try these newly carved jade melon seeds of mine. The emerald green jade melon seeds were casually arranged on the tea table, and I gestured for Eunuch Gao to help himself. His gaze did not linger on the melon seeds. Ah, no hurry, Your Majesty the Empress Dowager. This servant has come not only to pay respects but also for another matter. Chief Steward Gao dismissed all the palace maids before mysteriously leaning closer. It's just that His Majesty is in rather poor spirits today. This servant suspects you won't be able to see him for several days. Oh, whether we meet or not doesn't matter. A ruler should prioritize state affairs. But what could possibly be worth worrying about? Is there anything money can't solve? If there is, it must be because the money wasn't spent properly. What troubles my royal son? Is it financial matters that weigh on your heart? Chief Eunuch Gao wore an expression that said, I foresaw all, Your Highness. This humble servant must whisper, the riverbanks south of the Yangtze have burst. The people suffer greatly, their rice fields entirely submerged, leaving them destitute. Chief Eunuch Gao wiped his tears, stirring discomfort in my heart. I slipped a jade bracelet into his sleeve. I dare not accept more. Your Highness has already bestowed too much upon me. He reverently placed the bracelet back on the table and resumed their previous conversation. This servant presumes Your Highness understands my meaning in mentioning this matter. Rather than having the entire court fixate on the Liu family, it would be more advantageous for Your Highness to make the first move. Your Highness's entry into the palace was Master Liu's strategy to preserve the family. That 1,000,000 taels of silver and Your Highness's lifelong confinement under His Majesty's watchful eye proved the Liu family's loyalty to the throne. While successfully safeguarding the border regions, this humble servant understands this perfectly well, as does His Majesty. Now that we're facing natural disasters again, the wealthy merchants of Dayu will surely want to show their goodwill. With the Liu family setting an example, the rest will follow suit. I know it hasn't been easy for you either, entering the palace alone, living with just memorial tablets for company. You're a good child, but to never be able to have descendants. It weighs heavily on my heart. Eunuch Gao's words left me utterly bewildered, but I was certain he meant me no harm. It must cost quite a fortune to control the floods, right, Eunuch Gao? Roughly how much silver would be needed to manage the flooding in Jiangnan? Eunuch Gao immediately straightened up. Building embankments, provisions, manpower, and post-disaster reconstruction are all massive projects, not to mention potential outbreaks of plague. He hesitated for a moment before continuing. Your Highness, this would be no small expenditure. That's quite an expense, isn't it? Just how much money are we talking about? Noticing my hesitation, Chief Steward Gao reassured me. This servant suggests the Liu family merely make a modest initial contribution to encourage others. The other wealthy merchants can pool together the rest. This burden shouldn't fall entirely on the Liu family's shoulders. After wrestling with the decision for a moment, I tentatively extended one finger. Is this enough? Chief Steward Gao shook his head. 1,000,000 taels of silver certainly won't suffice. But the Liu family's sincerity has been demonstrated. Now it's up to the other families. I hastily clarified. Actually, it's 10,000,000 taels. Bang tilde. Chief Eunuch Gao slid off his chair onto the floor. Your Majesty, 1,000,000 taels. What? Not enough. No. 10,000,000 taels could buy the entire state of Jin. Oh. You mean the same state of Jin where the third princess wants to become Empress Dowager? Then why bother buying an Empress Dowager? Just buy the whole state of Jin outright for fun. Feasible. That means 10,000,000 taels should suffice. Eunuch Gao began calculating for me again. This servant believes there's no need to spend so much. Is it too much? Fine. Listen to the elder's advice. He ordered someone to fetch paper and brush, then began calculating accounts, several densely filled sheets. Precise to 5 decimal places, it wasn't until dawn's first light that he returned to attend the emperor. I sighed at how fiercely everyone in the palace competed, none seeming to sleep at all. Before leaving, I told him to take a handful of jade melon seeds. Eunuch Gao smiled warmly and took just one. This servant has already been blessed by your Highness's noble aura. My retirement funds are more than sufficient. I dare not hope for anything beyond. In the days to come, this humble servant shall repay your kindness. I lowered my gaze and said, I rely on your guidance. Eunuch Gao, those who see clearly and act wisely, are few indeed. The next day, my father sent 125 taels of silver into the palace. The other wealthy merchant families followed suit in pledging their loyalty. The main challenges of the flood disaster were smoothly resolved. Greatly pleased, His Majesty personally inscribed a plaque bestowed upon the Liu family. My father had it gilded with gold trim before hanging it up. Such ostentation was always the Liu family's style, so extravagant that even the imperial court thought the Lius had nothing but business sense. I was still catching up on sleep when Consort Zhong came again. Her words were laced with sarcasm. Oh my, it seems the Liu family's 125 taels of silver have completely drained their coffers. Hiding away to sleep at a time like this, they probably can't even afford to put food on the table. Hurry, return these things. I can smell the stench of money through the box. It turns my stomach. The clattering sounds woke me up. Before Jichuan could explain the whole story to me, over a dozen boxes were carried into the inner hall. When they were opened one after another, besides the jewelry and silver I had bestowed, there were several chests of unfamiliar ornaments and silks. Where did all this junk come from? I pointed at the unfamiliar boxes in confusion. Noble consort, these weren't sent by me. They must have been swapped. How dreadful. Let me replace them with golden ones for you. Lady Zhong's face flushed crimson, and it took her a long while to force out a single sentence. Truly biting the hand that feeds you. Let's go. Take all this junk back to the Palace of Gathered Elegance. I quickly had Jichuan chase after them with 2 chests of gold ornaments. My way of expressing emotions is quite simple. Silence, a single taste of appreciation. As I turned around, a muffled groan sounded behind me, followed by explosions filling the entire courtyard. I hurriedly caught Qiushuang, who had taken an arrow for me, and ordered someone to summon the imperial physician. Beside Qiushuang lay a group of palace attendants who hadn't managed to take the arrow for me, still lamenting. Why wasn't it me? Autumn Frost spoke with difficulty. Your Majesty the Empress Dowager, this servant has always wanted to thank you. My younger sister has been redeemed from bondage. The life she owes you, I shall repay. I silenced her. With Liu Rui here, how could I let anyone die in my arms? With practiced ease, I retrieved life-prolonging pills, blood-stanching pills, and antidote pills from my sleeve, feeding them all into her mouth. Now all that remained was to extract the arrow and ensure proper recuperation. Ah, Are you alright? A deafening noise erupted beside my ears again as Consort Zhong rushed in, scanning me from head to toe. I told you to keep a low profile, but you wouldn't listen. Standing there like that was basically inviting people to rob me. I'm rich. You know, young people these days, really, such a handful. Will you change your ways? I massaged my forehead. What could possibly be wrong with concubine Gui's child, Jichuan? Fetch 50,000 taels of silver and deliver them to Qiu Shuang's younger sister. This is her reward for shielding me from the arrow. The imperial concubine's expression cracked. The courtyard full of palace servants let out regretful wails. The assassin who tried to kill me had already been captured by the palace servants. If they couldn't block the arrow for me, catching the culprit was the least they could do. The man was stripped naked and sent to Yongshou Palace, too scandalous to look at. The palace servants who caught the assassin were each rewarded with 1,000 taels of silver. From then on, the servants near Yongshou Palace took turns standing guard voluntarily, almost hoping something would happen. I marveled at how comprehensive the palace was. Even maids could catch assassins. No, it should be called a siege. The thousands of palace maids spread throughout the palace are omnipresent, united as one, whether you flee to the heavens or descend into the earth. They can strip you bare and throw you before me, giving me the sense of security like home. I had Jichuan set up a stall at the gate of Yongshou Palace, offering bird's nest soup and Lingji tonic for those tired or sleepy to help themselves, unlimited. It said that even the palace attendants serving the emperor would often sneak away to take shifts guarding Yongshou Palace. This frequently left the Hall of Diligent Governance unattended. Enraged, the emperor decided to visit Yongshou Palace personally to investigate the matter. The chief eunuch sent someone early to inform me to prepare. Has this imperial palace changed its surname to Liu? When I first met my son, before I could even present him with a greeting gift, he questioned me outright. How much would that cost? Money, money, money. That's all you care about. You, your father, your brother, and even your mother on the other side of the planet. You've hoarded all the wealth across the 9 provinces. What's the point of amassing so much money, planning to take it to your grave? Me, are we even talking about the same thing? No, I've got so many children to feed. There's nothing wrong with earning a little extra. Wei Jin frowned deeply, showing faint signs of impending anger. I quickly stepped in to mediate. Of course, that includes you too, he said coldly. Do I owe you thanks for that? Me, not at all. The Empress Dowager's honor is already priceless. It's His Majesty's greatest blessing bestowed upon the Liu family. Wei Jin's expression finally improved somewhat. Well, regarding the flood relief efforts, the Liu family contributed significantly. I casually interrupted. Oh, it was nothing, just a small favor. In that case, Mother, the Empress Dowager should rest well. I shall visit you another day. Wait. I quickly ordered someone to fetch 100,000 taels of silver. This is a token of greeting. Wei Jin's mouth twitched uncontrollably. Then I shall thank Her Majesty the Empress Dowager. I waved my hand dismissively. It's nothing worth mentioning. Just now, the patterns on the yellow Emperor's jade pendant matched the tattoo on the assassin's waist from that day. I marveled at his thoughtfulness. He'd even considered testing the palace servant's loyalty on my behalf. Jichuan, fetch 200,000 taels of silver and deliver them to the Hall of Diligent Governance. Tell them this old widow will be paying protection fees monthly from now on, and trouble His Majesty to watch over me. When Jichuan returned, she brought with her the Empress Dowager's seal and credentials. Now, my position was fully legitimate. It seems assassins won't be visiting Yongshou Palace anymore in the future. Those palace maids waiting outside to take knives and arrows for me will have their hopes dashed. Then let each be rewarded with 50 taels of silver. With ice melting and snow thawing, half a year has passed since I entered the palace. Over the past 6 months, the imperial concubines have been sending me their hometown delicacies every day, and my grandchildren rush to Yongshou.
People, all vying eagerly to promote themselves. I can refine elixirs capable of reviving the dead. I specialize in obstetrics and gynecology, particularly difficult deliveries and high-risk pregnancies. I'm skilled in bone setting. I excel at detoxification and poison making. And me, I know cupping therapy. Wei Jin waved his hand grandly. Take them all. Report to the Imperial Household Department. Of the 100 men sent by Great Chu, Only 2 returned. The lead envoy cursed angrily, "If I weren't 70 and they didn't reject me, I could have easily become a chief steward." He paused again, looking at the only remaining flag-bearer beside him. "Why aren't you going? Are you stupid?" He scratched his head. "I'm only good at carrying banners." The mixer was a great success. The whole palace celebrated together. Wei Jinjing toasted me with wine, saying, "This visit from the state of Chu owes its greatest success to Her Majesty the Empress Dowager. May the imperial harem follow her exemplary model." A wave of applause surged through the grand hall. The grandchildren clapped until their little palms turned crimson. My heart swelled with warmth, and I distributed next year's New Year's money gifts ahead of time. The summer heat grew unbearable, making people increasingly lazy. So the emperor proposed a retreat to the mountain villa to escape the scorching weather. The entire palace let me choose my courtyard first. I took a look at the imperial summer retreat. It wasn't even as large as my family's private villa, so I ended up staying at the Liu family villa instead. Oh, and my father had people rush overnight to rename Liu family villa to Royal Cottage. Wei Jin laughed even more heartily. He merely needed to send people. But their joy lasted less than 2 days before Chu launched a surprise attack. After witnessing Dao's national strength during the alliance, the king of Chu could no longer sit still. Fearing future suppression by Dao, thus, he personally led 10,000 elite troops to secretly cross the border and advance straight toward the foot of Buyuan Mountain, to capture Wei Jin and conquer Dao. The atmosphere in the detached courtyard instantly froze. Wei Jin ordered all female family members to hide in the basement while he led his mere 200 personal guards to meet the enemy. Only slightly over 20 returned, the arrows were exhausted, and casualties were severe. Wei Jin was also wounded. At night, the women emerged from the tunnels to tend to the wounded, applying medicine and bandages. In the air, besides the scent of blood, there was only despair. "Your Majesty, this concubine is willing to fight alongside you." The Empress was the first to speak. No trace of her former fragility remained. Noble consort Zhong also stiffened her neck in agreement. "At worst we'll die in battle, preserving our purity. This concubine would rather die than surrender." The other concubines spoke up one after another. "We, your humble servants, are willing to fight alongside your Majesty against the enemy." The children also stepped forward, each puffing out their little chests with resolute expressions. Wei Jin clenched and unclenched his fists. "This emperor can still fight. You all hide in the basement, hold out for 2 more days until reinforcements arrive. I swear I won't let the Chu people humiliate you." Hearing this, I had a sudden inspiration. I hurriedly interrupted Wei Jin. "I have an idea," I said. 3,000 daughters-in-law turned their eyes toward me in unison. Just now in the basement, the third princess asked me, "Why does the Liu family hide so much silver in a single detached courtyard?" Lady Zhong spoke up. "Mother, please don't complicate matters. This isn't about silver right now. You old folks should hurry to the basement and hide. My children and I will protect you with our lives." I also stiffened my neck and retorted, "How is this not about silver? If that's the case, then clearly not enough silver was offered. This old queen has said it before, such things simply don't exist in my domain." Wei Jin caught the implication and hesitantly asked, "What do you mean?" I slapped my thigh emphatically. "That's right, drown them in silver." The third princess jumped up clapping. "Imperial grandmother is so clever, Father Emperor. You wouldn't believe it, the silver in the basement could fill 10 concentric lakes." Wei Jin's expression cracked. "It was your son who lacked foresight. But are you truly willing to spend such a fortune?" I waved my hand grandly. "TSK, this is just the beginning." Wei Jin said that ambushes should be struck early. 3,000 concubines stood atop the outer palace walls, catching silver bricks hauled up one chest after another. The Chu monarch had long been prepared, grinning mischievously. "I knew you'd resort to sneak attacks, even sending women into battle. It seems Dayu's downfall isn't far off. Warriors, heroes, today is your battle for glory. You have witnessed Great Chu rise as the foremost power across the 9 provinces, capture Dayu's dog emperor, and you'll return home, each man receiving 10 taels of silver, to live in peace. Now is the time, raise your swords, strike down the Yu dogs, cut off their heads, 100 taels of silver awaits, charge." Lady Zhong twitched violently at the corner of her mouth beside me. "Risking lives for mere 100 taels, even my family's Huang would scoff at that." Holding high the Great Yu banner, seated upon Chief Eunuch Gao's shoulders, I gave the command, "Smash them all." Boom, in an instant. 3,000 concubines simultaneously hurled silver bricks, filling the sky with countless breathtaking parabolas that glittered with the radiance of wealth, so near yet so far. Time seemed to stand still. The soldiers of Great Chu were struck down yet offered no resistance. Instead, they clung to the weapons and bit down fiercely. Then they shouted, "It's real. This is real silver. Everyone, grab it quickly. The Emperor of Great Chu has gone mad." 10,000 elite soldiers discarded their armor and helmets. Using them to carry silver, they paid no heed to their bruised and battered wounds. Even the Emperor of Great Chu has gone mad. Charge forward. Damn it. Pick up what? Damn it. Get your ass out there and kill some enemies. I told you there'd be silver rewards. Now hurry up and fight. The commander shoved him forward. Cheap bastard, only 10 taels. Might as well choke on your stinginess. The general yanked off the Chu Emperor's helmet. You're not stuffing silver coins in here for me. Unbelievable, Wei Jin. I never thought you could be so shameless. Using such rogue tactics to crush the morale of Chu's soldiers, you're despicable. The Chu Emperor pointed at Wei Jin on the city wall and cursed loudly. Wei Jin raised his head defiantly. My mother has plenty of money. Does your mother have any? The Chu Emperor pointed at me incredulously. You mean her? Who is she to you? Say it again, who exactly is this little girl? The Chu Emperor was on the verge of breaking down. Wei Jin planted his hands on his hips. Liu Rui, my Empress mother, my mama, my one and only mama, what are you gonna do about it? I don't believe it. How is this possible? 3,000 imperial concubines, princes, and princesses stood neatly atop the city walls, shouting in unison, "Long live the Empress Mother, long live the Grand Empress Dowager." The Chu Emperor felt his intelligence was being ground into the dirt repeatedly. How is that possible? I refuse to believe you have such a wealthy and youthful Empress Mother. Why don't I? The Chu Emperor knelt on the ground, questioning the heavens. Wei Jin proudly lifted his chin with arrogance. Mind your own business about my family affairs. The Chu Emperor had completely lost his mind. Where to find a wealthy queen mother? The Chu soldiers were beaten half to death. Consort Zhong asked if I should keep beating them. Queen mother, should we save some silver? I waved my hand dismissively. If we don't smash it today, we'll be the ones who die. The state of Chu was defeated. The Chu Emperor fled in panic. Thereafter, questioning his life's purpose and never recovering from the blow, he vowed to find himself a wealthy imperial consort. This war left an indelible mark in the annals of history. Later generations would call it the Battle of Maternal Might. Upon returning to the palace, I was bestowed the title of Empress Dowager Cixing. I remained silent. Rewards flowed endlessly. In the blink of an eye, the Osmanthus trees in Yongshou Palace had bloomed and withered 5 times. The grandchildren have grown up now. Your Majesty, your humble servant comes to pay respects. Chief Eunuch Jiao approached me leaning on his golden cane. This servant has also prepared your favorite multigrain Jianbing Guozi. I greeted him. Come quickly and see this jade wheelchair I've had made for you. The tall eunuch trembled as he knelt. My lady. This humble servant has already received more than enough. Deposit this jade chair into the national treasury. With this year's natural disasters, the imperial court isn't faring well either. I waved my hand dismissively. The national treasury is the national treasury. This dowager empress naturally manages it. This is yours. If not for your mediation during the concubine position purchase, the Liu family would likely have been confiscated long ago. It's been so many years. I just mentioned to Master Liu once that the border was short of 300,000 taels of silver, and he immediately got the hint. The emperor isn't a fool either. He knows that if the Liu family were driven to extinction, they'd surely seek refuge in another country. I couldn't agree more. My mother used to say that the Liu family's influence was evenly divided across the northern, southern, and central regions. If the southern kingdom made a move, we'd go north. If the north acted, we'd head straight for the central region. No one would dare lay a finger on the Liu family. This year brought natural disasters. The calamity reached such severity that third princess could buy herself the position of Grand Dowager of Jin using only the New Year's money I gave her. Just say the word to grandmother, and the Jin kingdom is yours. Third princess acted all shy and coy. Imperial grandmother, your granddaughter has taken a liking to the Grand Emperor of Jin. The child has grown up and begun to harbor her own thoughts. I reminded her, don't forget to find time to replace the Emperor of Jin with your 5th imperial brother. He pleases me most. If others neglect me in the future, I shall go to Jin and seek you out. Imperial grandmother, 3 years after the famine, the national treasury was depleted. The emperor came to me reluctantly. Mother, Queen Mother, your son has a favor to ask of you. I waved my hand grandly. 10 million taels. The emperor was overjoyed and clung to my leg. Mother Empress, you're my only mother. I am your only son. The end.